All right, hello once again, Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College. And as part of the Rankin Technical College AWD 1000 Web Development Technologies course, I've been creating a series of videos based on the Mozilla Developer Network Learn Web Development series. I'm in JavaScript. We're talking client-side web APIs, and we're up to the drawing graphics. And as you can see, we've got drawing graphics, video and audio APIs, and client-side storage left in our JavaScript section. All right, the browser contains very powerful tools. We looked at this last time, like SVG. All right, this article shows an introduction to the canvas and further resources to allow you to learn more. Okay. All right. It says, as we talked about in the earlier HTML multimedia and embedding module, the web was originally just text. So images were introduced. And imagine that the web today had no images on it whatsoever. It was all text. It would be pretty boring to look at. All right. First via the image element and later via CSS properties like background image and SVG. This, however, was still not enough. While you could use CSS and JavaScript to animate SVG vector images, there was still no way to do the same for bitmap images, and the tools available were limited. The web had no way to effectively create animations, games, 3D scenes, etc. that you could do in lower level languages like C++ and Java, which were basically at the time what were used then almost exclusively to create games, animations, etc. The situation started to improve when browsers began to support the Canvas element and associated Canvas API. Apple invented it in 2004, and other browsers followed by implementing it in the years that followed. As you will see below, Canvas provides many useful tools for creating 2D animations, games, etc. The below example shows a simple 2D Canvas-based bouncing balls animation we originally talked about in much earlier in when we had the introducing JavaScript objects section. All right. Around 2006 to 2007, Mozilla started work on an experimental 3D Canvas implementation, which became WebGL. As it says, it gained traction among browser vendors around 10 or so years ago. It allows you to create real 3D graphics inside your browser. The example below shows a simple rotating cube. This article will focus mainly on 2D Canvas, as raw WebGL code is very complex. We will, however, show you how to use a WebGL library to create a 3D scene more easily, and you can find a tutorial, and the link is right there. Basic Canvas functionality is supported across all browsers with the exception of IE8 and below for 2D Canvas and WebGL, all right, for IE11. And again, you already know this, but we can always go back and do a caniuse.com. And we can come in here and put in WebGL and hit enter. And as you can see, earlier versions of everything. Even IE11 has got support for it. So virtually anything you'd probably be using right now, looks like with the exception of Opera Mini, will support this. If you want to create a 2D or 3D scene on a web page, you need to start with an HTML canvas element, which is used to define the area in which it will be drawn. It's as simple as including it on your page. This will create a canvas on the page with that size. All right, you can see that. Inside that, as it says, you can put in some fallback content. So if for some reason the user is using a browser that doesn't support Canvas, I mean, that'd be kind of silly to put that, but I would just leave it at your browser doesn't support Canvas. Of course, the above message is really unhelpful. In a real example, you'd want to relate the fallback content to the Canvas content so you could at least explain to somebody what was being used. All right, let's start by creating our own canvas that we draw future experiments onto. First, make a copy of this Canvas start file, and before I do that, which I am going to do right now, but I'm going to close a few of these things that I've got open in here. All right, I've got my New York Times files. Got my MapQuest. I'll save that, I don't care. And I am going to leave these other ones up here that we had below, because I may go back at a later time and look at them and then maybe even update the lectures. We'll see. So I want to come in here. Come on. And this is called 0_canvas start.html. Let's just immediately save this. And we will save it, and we will put it in its own folder, which we will call Canvas. And we will save it here. There it is. And now I can copy everything into it. Not very much to copy in. All right, so we've got that. All it is, as you can see, is just the title of Canvas, empty body tag with an empty script tag inside of it. All right. All right. Let's start by creating our own canvas that we will draw future experiments. Yeah. So first we made the copy, add the following code just below the body tag. Fine. Just suitable. That's fine. It's a lot more professional than what we had. So again, this is the fallback content. Okay. All right. We have added a class to the canvas elements so it will be easier to select. That was right here, the My Canvas, if we have multiple canvases on a page, but we remove the width and height for now. You could add them back in if you wanted to, but we will set them using JavaScript below. Canvases with no explicit width and height default to 300 by 150 pixels. Now add the following inside of your script element. Okay. Here we have stored a reference to the canvas and the canvas element. In the next line, we set both a new constant width and the canvas's width property equal to the inner width, which gives us the viewport width, and we do a similar thing with the height. All right, you'll also see that we are chaining assignments together with multiple equal signs. This is allowed in JavaScript, and it is good technique if you want to make variables all equal to the same value. All right, we wanted to make the canvas width and height easily accessible in the width height variables. Well, that's why they did it that way. If you save and load your example in the browser now, you'll see nothing. But you should also see scroll bars, which is a problem for us. Let's just check and see if indeed that's the case. So I'm going to save, go back in here, find my canvas, and open it. And you can see here and here. All right. To get rid of them, we need to remove the margin and overflow it, add the following to the head. So we're putting this in here as some internal CSS, and then we will see if the scroll bars are indeed gone after we do that. So these should now be gone in just a second. And they are. So we've just told it to hide any overflow. All right. Okay, next. You should generally set the size of the image using HTML attributes or DOM properties as explained above. You could use CSS, but the problem then is that the sizing is done after the canvas has been rendered. We've talked about that earlier. All right. You need to do one final thing before we consider our canvas template finished. To draw on it, we need a special reference to a drawing area that's known as a context. All right. So we go on a 2D context. So as it says, below all the other lines, we're going to do this. There's nothing special about the name CTX. It's just that it's used a lot for context. All right. It says other context values you could choose include WebGL, etc., but we won't need them for this article. All right, so let me just put that line in, and that will go down here. Okay, fine. All right. Let's do one last thing before we move on. We'll color the Canvas background black to give you a first taste of the Canvas API. So add the following to the bottom of your JavaScript. Well, as you can see, 0, 0, 0, so that's black, and it's drawing a filled rectangle, which is starting at 0, 0, and is going to take up the entire width and the entire height. So after we run this, the whole thing, again, should be black. Let's check. So we should again be able to come back here, refresh, and there it is. Here we are, well, they're just explaining kind of what I just explained. Okay, the template is done and it's time to move on. As we said above, all drawing operations are done by manipulating this Canvas Rendering Context 2D Object, CTX. You do have to realize, I've mentioned this before, that 0, 0 is the upper left-hand corner of the screen here. All right? Drawing shapes tends to be done using the rectangle shape primitive or by tracing a line along a current path and filling in the shape. Below we'll show you how to do both. Let's start with some simple rectangles. Well, notice one of the first things we're doing is we're changing the color, so we're making it white so that it sticks out. And then we'll draw a rectangle that it looks like is going to start 50 pixels over and 50 pixels down and be 100 pixels wide and 150 pixels tall. So let's put this in. Come back to what we had here, refresh, and there it is. And I should have said 255.00 was red. It's not white. White would have been 255, 255, 255. So 50 over, 50 down, 100 pixels wide, 150 pixels tall. I believe that those were the sizes that we gave it. There you go. Let's add another rectangle into the mix. This one will be green. This one will be 75 over, 75 down, and be 100 by 100. All right, and there'll be an important thing to bring up here in just 1 second. Maybe you've already figured it out. You'll notice how that's drawn over the other one. And they do mention here that the order here does matter. So in other words, the last one drawn goes into the foreground, which should mean that if we flip these two, like that, it should look pretty much just the opposite. This one, okay, is covering up the other one. So you get the idea. Put it back to the way it was. All right, note, I'm going to finish up right here. So note that we can draw semi-transparent graphics by specifying a semi-transparent color, for example, using RGBA. So this will be only 75% for lack of better words. All right. And there it is. All right, now let's try drawing some on your own. Have fun. I'll leave that up to you. All right, before we go into the strokes and line widths, I think that's about it for this tape, so I will continue on momentarily.